The year is 1787. In a cramped London workshop, beneath the clatter of a wooden press and the smell of fresh ink, a handful of determined men and women set type for a broadside that would ripple across an empire. They were small in number, but enormous in conviction. Their campaign began not with rhetoric alone, but with a startling strategy to make the hidden machinery of cruelty visible, tangible, and impossible to ignore. At the center of that campaign stood Thomas Clarkson, a quietly relentless organizer who would travel 35,000 miles by horse, by river, by ship, so that no one could pretend that they did not know what the trade entailed. He did not collect abstract statistics. He collected instruments of torture, iron handcuffs, thumbscrews, iron collars, scales once used to weigh human cargo. He packed them into crates, into his carriage, onto ships bound for London, and he used them as blunt pieces of evidence. When these artifacts were displayed at public meetings, on the steps of churches, and before Parliament, they spoke in a language the elite could no longer dismiss. The campaign's methods were modern in a way that still feels astonishing. They invented tactics that every contemporary NGO now takes for granted. They understood branding before the word existed. They commissioned a simple, repeated image and emblem that could be stamped on leaflets, sewn on handkerchiefs, and printed on tokens. It became the world's first campaign logo, a visual shorthand that united diverse supporters from merchants to clergy to ordinary laborers. That emblem, seen everywhere, created a sense of shared purpose and identity. They organized economic pressure on a scale that startled those who benefited from the trade. Sweetness imported from plantations powered by enslaved labor sugar became the target. The campaign appealed directly to consumers, not just lawmakers. Broadsides urged people to refuse sugar grown by enslaved hands. What began as moral persuasion swelled into a mass action. Eventually, some 300,000 people participated in a coordinated sugar boycott. Housewives, shopkeepers, and factory workers changed daily habits, choosing alternatives, demanding ethical supply. The boycott demonstrated a critical insight. Political change could be driven from the grocery basket as much as from the ballot box. They were equally masterful at turning public sentiment into legislative pressure. The activists learned to flood the corridors of power with petitions, signatures, and visible displays of popular will. Annual gatherings, local committees, and parish-level networks produced a tidal wave of documents directed at Parliament. The petitions were not perfunctory. Many bore thousands of names gathered from the literate and the laboring poor alike. The sheer volume made it politically risky for MPs to ignore. Faces and voices were multiplied into paper that could not be swept away. This combination evidence on the one hand, branding and consumer action in the middle, and relentless petitioning on the other created an unstoppable momentum. The campaign reframed the slave trade from an economic unfortunate to a moral atrocity requiring legal remedy. It moved the debate from abstract questions of commerce to the immediate reality of instrumented cruelty and human suffering. There were setbacks, divisions, and long waits, but the methods endured, and the movement's persistence paid off. By converting disgust into organized action, by making cruelty visible, and by channeling public conscience into collective economic and political pressure, the activists paved the way for parliamentary votes that ultimately outlawed the transatlantic slave trade. When the press in that London workshop rolled again, it no longer simply reproduced words. It amplified a new kind of civic power, mobilized, visual, and persistent. The artifacts Clarkson collected, the emblems stitched onto garments, the empty sugar bowls in households across Britain, and the mountains of petitions together tell a clear story that sustained, ingenious activism can reshape laws and consciences, and that ordinary people, working with strategy and moral clarity, can stop the machinery of oppression.